Welcome to this episode of Blossoms and Bourbon. I'm so excited that you decided to join us again. Just as a reminder, during the first portion of every episode, we're going to do a floral technique, a floral design thing. And in the second portion, we're going to be tasting a bourbon. Different bourbon every episode, so you don't want to miss that. All right, so last time we talked about grocery store flowers and how to make those look like something. And as part of that, I showed you this little trick with this clear tape grid that we put over the vase, which is a way to hold the flowers in place. That's called the mechanic of the design. And mechanics are super important. And with the clear tape, it just sort of disappears into the flower design, which is awesome. But today, I want to show you how the mechanic can actually become part of the design. So it's going to enhance the design, it's going to add color, it's going to add texture. It's just going to be a really cool and fun way to kind of elevate the design even more. So what I'm playing with here, this is a product called aluminum wire. Because it's aluminum, it's flower friendly, it's not going to tarnish the water, it doesn't deteriorate or help promote the deterioration of the flowers. It's color fast. It comes in all these amazing textures. This one is a twist pattern. It comes in flat, different sizes. So it's really an amazing and fun product to work with. The one that I chose to use today is this kind of purpley colored twist. And watch this carefully, because this is a very intense process that I trained highly for many years. And you'll see that it's just, you're gonna have to practice this, because you have to squish this wire into the vase. So what we're doing is just creating sort of a grid, almost like the grid that this tape made on the vase, except this grid is made with the wire done inside the vase. So that grid is what's going to hold the flowers in place, okay? And we're going to leave a little bit hanging out here at the front, a little bit hanging out at the back, and you're going to see why in a little bit. All right, so first of all, add water. I had this amazing designer who worked for me once, and she would be halfway through an arrangement and realize that she had never put water in the vase. We used to give her a hard time about that all the time. But she did great work, other than not hydrating the flowers. Remember something else we talked about too relative to flower design is we're gonna make sure that there are no leaves below the level of the water. We wanna be sure that everything down in the water is nice and clear, nice and clean. All those leaves that are in there will actually promote the growth of bacteria, and the flowers will not last nearly so long, okay? All right, so some blue hydrangea, some green hydrangea. We're gonna go for color with this one, people. There we go. And I do like this sort of simple round form. It's a good form for most occasions. It's good to use on your kitchen table, a coffee table, even a side table in your front hall or something. It's a great arrangement style. Now I'm leaving a little bit of the foliage around the top of the bloom to kind of help fill in the arrangement. The arrangement needs some greenery, needs some foliage, so that naturally is a part of the stem, so we're going to leave that in place. I do want to, however, add this other cool leaf. This is called Aurelia, and it's so much fun. Great texture, great shape, and it's going to pull the design a little bit asymmetrically, so it's going to be a little bit off center, which is going to be fun. I've been known to be called a little bit off center myself, so it's all good. Jason, you're being really quiet over there. All right, so we've got the hydrangea in place. Let's put a couple of these amazing sunflowers in there. Sunflowers seem to be one of those things that people either really like or they really don't like. So where are you on the scale of liking them or not liking them? Now what I'm doing with these two, let me just spin this around so you can see, is I'm kind of overlapping the two of those a little bit to create what's called the focal point in the front of the arrangement. So this is kind of going to naturally be where your eye goes first, is to the focal point of the arrangement. And then another little trick in flower world, this guy, he's probably seen better days. So we're not gonna throw him away because he still has a lot of good left in him, a lot of things that can be useful. But what we're gonna do is just gonna help the process a little bit by popping these petals off. And what you'll see we're left with is this really beautiful sort of chocolate rusty brown textural center of the sunflower with those green parts of the underneath of the flower left below it. So that is going to add another really beautiful element of texture to the arrangement. All right. Now, because we're focusing on color today, let's add some really bright orange roses. And what I'm doing now is removing the guard petals. The guard petals are the petals that are on the outermost edges of the rose, and they literally are there for that purpose. They're to guard the bloom, and they kind of take care of the bloom. So they're there, their purpose is to make sure that the bloom doesn't get damaged. So very often these are the ones that get damaged, and we just discard them. They've done their job now, ready to go on to something else. All right. Another technique that I'm using in this arrangement is grouping. So you'll notice that all of the same types of flowers are going to be in a similar location. So I'm putting all the roses over on this side. I'm going to add some tulips over on this side where this aurelia foliage is. Part of the fun. One thing I like about grouping flowers is it actually, for me, it calls attention to the particular type of flower. In flower world, we sometimes call those arrangements where everything is mixed together toss salad, because it looks like a toss salad. Everything's kind of all mixed up. But in this case, you really pay attention to the sunflowers because they're right in the front and grouped together. You pay attention to these roses because they're all grouped over on this side. So it really does help with bringing attention to each particular type of flower. All right, so we're gonna extend the line that we started with the aurelia over on this side. And this is proof that my grid is working really well because I'm having to work a little bit to get that tulip in there. So that's okay. That means they're holding in place. I'm not throwing stuff on the floor so bad today. I'm actually using the trash can. Trying to turn over a new leaf. All right, I'm gonna spin this around, take a look at it from the front. All right, I like where that's headed. So you get the asymmetry. It's a little longer to one side than it is to the other side, so it makes it feel a little off balance, but the visual weight of the flowers, the way that we have them arranged, makes it feel very balanced when you look at it. This arrangement doesn't feel like it's gonna tip over at all. And that's an important element of this. Now, this leftover wire that I had, I'm gonna just create sort of a decorative accent with the wire. Chop this off here, and here's what I'm looking for. I'm gonna do a little twist with this, almost just like a little medallion, or a little disc we're gonna make with that. So like that little spiral, he'll come over and be a part of the design here. Then we're gonna do the same thing with this guy here. So the point of all this was that this mechanic, this wire, this decorative, pretty wire that we have in this arrangement, and I probably should have left a little more there, but I'll tell you what we can do. We'll take this and make another one. The decorative wire that we used that enhances this arrangement, that makes it, even prettier actually, is also the thing that's kind of helping hold it all together. And that's the really cool part about mechanics. There we go. All right, so I would be pleased to send that out to any clients. I think that's good. I do want to show you one other thing relative to mechanics though. I want you to begin to think about mechanics in just random, unusual ways. What things could you use for mechanics in an arrangement? So I did a program once, and every design in the program had to be based in or use something from the hardware store. So it was a really cool program because it forced me to think outside the box. So I've prepared this other arrangement with another mechanic that I want to show you with another type of material as the mechanic. And that is duct tape. Yes, good old duct tape and electrical tape. And I'm sure you know, duct tape and electrical tape comes in all these amazing colors. You can get it in patterns, you can get it in, you know, stripes and whatever. So all I did to prepare this vase for this arrangement was to create sort of this plaid design with electrical tape, which is the narrow tape, and then the wider duct tape. And because of how it's crisscrossed at the top, the grid at the top creates these little openings, and that's where the flowers go. If you look closely in this design, you'll see that right here, I've held these bells of Ireland together to kind of create this arch at the top with some of that turquoisey colored bind wire. This is actually the bullion wire from that company that does the aluminum. And a way just again to add some more color and some more texture to the design. But I think this is super fun. It's a great way to do some especially fun and bright arrangements if you're into color. I do tend to love color in flower design. And this was a lot of fun to put together. So think about unusual ways that you can use mechanics or unusual things that you can use for the mechanics in a design. It's great fun. All right, so we're off to bourbon. This is the reward for working hard, right? So I did say to Jason before we started, I said, oh my gosh, look at this. I brought this bottle and there's hardly anything in it, which means that I like it. It's one of my favorites. This one is called Hirsch. And this Hirsch whiskey, this is actually not called bourbon, it is called whiskey. And the reason for that is because it's distilled in Indiana. But then it's trucked from Indiana to Kentucky and it's bottled as a blend in Kentucky. So I don't know what the business parts of that are, don't know what that means in bourbon world, but it works, it works. You'll notice that the coloration on this one is a little bit lighter. It's not quite as dark as some of the other bourbons. I did have here the Michter's that we tested or tasted in the first episode, and you'll see that this is not quite as dark. The Michter's is aged about 8 years in the cask. Hirsch is aged about 6 years. So it won't have quite as much color to it because it hasn't been aged as long, okay? Remember when you smell with your mouth open, yep, it's nice and smooth. I can already tell. Of course, you know, spoiler alert, I've had this a bunch of times. Yeah, this is a good one. This is actually, it's got a little bit of a bite to it compared to the Michter's that we did in the previous episode. But still one that's very smooth. It's very easy to drink just on its own like this. I think I mentioned to you before, if you like to kind of cool it off a little bit, you can put an ice cube in this and it would be just perfect. So Hirsch, if you haven't tried it before, give it a try. I think you'll enjoy it. One more sip and then I'll close out here, people. All right. Well, this has been fun for me. I hope it's been fun for you. I hope you've learned something. Don't forget to like the video. Don't forget to subscribe so that you can be notified when we are doing this fun again. Thank you so much for joining us for this episode, and we'll see you again soon. Take care. Bye.